So who is Asake? Asake's real name is Ahmed Ololade. And according to The Sun, although he had been releasing music since 2018, his musical career progressed further in 2020 when he released the single Mr. Money. But he rose to stardom after being signed to YBNL Records by the label boss Olamide Badu in February 2022. According to his own words, Asake was struggling for a long time trying to get his music heard, and it was after he signed with Olamide that things began to change. Hear what he said about his boss.
Trabaye and Sungbalaja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Olamide played the bass in Trabaye though.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. You know, a lot of people don't even know what that man can do. I don't know. I don't want to talk about my boss too much. You get but a lot of people don't even know what he can do. Like he has a very pure energy. Like even if you don't want to like stand, it can make you stand. Like even if you don't want to like stand, it can make you stand.
Wow. So take us through your journey.
The Guardian says, as his international renown has grown, Asake has become known for his spectacular and occasionally erratic live shows. Earlier this year, he went viral after bringing a live goat on stage in Atlanta. Now, the carnal among us will always say, oh, this just means he believes he's the greatest of all time. We had the same nonsense with the Kirk Franklin video where people couldn't understand that using the GOAT acronym for Jesus or God is just plain unacceptable, especially when we know the biblical symbolism of what being a goat is. Now, I don't know much about Asake, and so I just did a little research, and there's not really much you can find out about him other than the fact is he was struggling for a while, and since he's signed to YBNL, he has now just grown massively and has become an international, almost superstar. And recently, one of his shows in London had around 3,000 people without tickets show up, and there was a press. And unfortunately, one young lady has died, and some people are still in critical condition. Why we idol worship these people, I don't know. Actually, I do, because a lot of music artists employ witchcraft in the making of their music. They consult demons, they do spells. And I found it interesting when looking at a video with Asake and Fireboy called Bandana. There was some troubling imagery in this video, but one of the most interesting scenes was Asake in a church, then Asake in a church with some goats. And in one scene, it cuts to the pews full of people, some with fire coming out of their heads. And by the end of the scene, Asake, it seems he has led these goats out of church. Very interesting, very strange. And when you know the biblical symbolism of a goat, you can only but wonder, how did he have this sharp rise to fame? For those who don't understand biblical symbolism and even satanic symbolism and imagery, let me draw your attention to Matthew 25. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats, and he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Scripture often talks about this separation in a number of ways, such as the wheat from the chaff and the weeds from the wheat. Anything from Norse religions to Greeks incorporated goats as objects of worship. Now in Satanist circles, they worship Baphomet and often glorify imagery of goats, as goats represent stubbornness and evil. Goats exemplify self-reliance and destruction. A shepherd has control over his flock, a goat herder does not. If a goat herder doesn't keep a vigilant eye on his goats, he may allow them to harm the other animals, such as cases of goats chewing off horsetails. As noted in the Matthew passage, God has to separate the sheep and the goats. The Bible is clear in its symbolism and imagery regarding goats. He said, my sheep know my voice. He never said my goats. Goats are stubborn and self-reliant. And so for Asake to be using this imagery is not an accident. For the Freemasons, for the Illuminati, for many satanic groups to be using images of goats is not an accident. It is a sign and it is a symbol to those in the know of what Asake has sold himself into. And it's very interesting. He talked about the powers of his boss. His boss has obviously very great connections. Since he signed with this label, he signed up to Empire Records. Empire Records is a part of the music industry, a very big label in the music industry, and we know who owns the music industry. Open your eyes, people. What happened at that concert was no accident. Am I saying that Asake knew it was going to happen? No, not necessarily. He doesn't have to know. He sold himself into a system that has a God that requires blood. God with a small g. The God of this world, Satan, requires a sacrifice. He requires blood. And he feeds not just on the blood of animals, but on the bloods of humans. And this is why many artists have strange occurrences of death in their careers. Many of those who've reached the top, if you look into their lives, Snoop Dogg, P. Diddy, Kanye West even spoke about this the other day. Many people have a lot of strange deaths that occur around them when they reach the heights of stardom. Open your eyes, people. Stay close to Christ.